I'd like to welcome our newest sponsor, Schecter Guitars. This holiday season, go over to schecterguitars.com and see what high-quality goodies they have waiting there for you. Premium feel and unbeatable price. See why guitarists like Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse, Robert Smith from The Cure, and Ernie C. from Body Count all love Schecter Guitars. A wide variety of styles and builds with high-end components and affordable prices for touring guitarists. Built to last. Go treat yourself and try something new you've always wanted to check out. Schecter Guitars has it all. What's up, everybody? Our partners at Izotope are having a huge holiday sale. Go to izotope.com/deals to save 30% or more on pro mixing and audio repair tools. Save over $400 on RX11 Advanced. Solve the unsolvable with their complete 44-tool audio repair and enhancement suite. That's izotope.com/deals. These savings are for a limited time only. Don't wait. Hey, what's happening? Before we jump into the show, I wanted to see if you had any music on a hard drive. You have a band, you have a project, and you want to self-release your own music. Well, there's an easy way to do it. You can go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate and go get your music up on all the streamers. You keep 100% of your royalties, and you can get 30% off by using this code. It's a great, easy way to get your music up on the streamers and share it with your fans, your friends, your family, your mom, your dog, everybody. Everyone wants to hear it. But go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate, HYPHENATE, and send me the link. I want to hear it too. Send your mom the link. Send your dog the link. They all want to hear it too.
I don't really sell any new records. Everything I have is used, and that's also because I like older pressings just as a curator and a fan.
What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into Hyphenate with me, your host, Randy Randall. This is our show for Thursday, December 18th. On today's show, I'm so stoked to get to sit down and chat with my friend, Greg Arnold. Greg has an awesome record store that he is running and curating and selling rad records. It's here in Southern California, in Westlake Village. The name of the store is called Flowering Spikes. You can go to floweringspikes.com to see all the records that he has there, see what he's got going on, get more information about him. You can also follow him on Instagram. It's at Flowering Spikes, just like it sounds. And he posts records, tons of records there, everything he's got for sale. If you're into classical music, apparently there's a whole world of classical records that people buy and sell that I know nothing about. So Greg is going to enlighten me about the world of classical music record selling. But Greg and I go way back. We played music together in different bands, and different projects. I think we both played in our friend Devin Williams' band at some point. And he was also a chef. And he set up one of the first shows, the solo shows I ever played. I played in the basement of a vegan restaurant that he was cooking at, and it was really fun. It was there in Echo Park, and it was really a tiny little restaurant. It became Sage. Sage that was on Sunset in Echo Park. He'd asked if I wanted to play in the basement. He was kind of setting up shows there. So it was really fun and informal. And I appreciate him, doing all that all those years ago. So it was really fun. So go check out Flowering Spikes for your record needs, especially in this time of year, with holiday shopping. I'm sure he ships records all over the world. So go check out floweringspikes.com and follow Flowering Spikes on Instagram. And even go in. He's there from Wednesday to Sunday, 12 to 6. If you are in the Westlake Village area on Wednesday to Sunday, 12 to 6, you can go in and say hi to Greg. Tell him you heard him here on the Hyphenate podcast. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so. We are available at hyphenatehalftime@gmail.com. And hope everybody's having a good holiday.
I'm doing great, man. Just having a good morning, running around, running some errands. I just made it into the shop here at my record store. It's called Flowering Spikes. Just hanging out. Where are you at?
Nice. I'm at home. I built a little home studio. Oh gosh, about 5 years ago, beginning of the pandemic, we'd had a no age studio downtown for years at our friend's building, and then we moved out, moved to became a garage band again. Just easier
Nice.
that way. Yeah.
You guys still play?
No, we haven't played for at least a year, maybe a little over a year. I think we're sort of just in between stuff, just dealing with family things, doing all the stuff that comes along with being an adult in life.
I know exactly. How old is your kid now?
I have two, so
Right.
going on 12 and 6. So,
That's crazy,
yeah,
man.
I know time flies, right? Yeah, tell me about the shop. When did the record shop happen? How did you get into this?
Well, we opened it in June. I mean, I've just been collecting records forever, for years and years. And I always kind of wanted to have a record store.
I can't hear you. I don't know what happened, if it's on your side or my side. Maybe let's try going cameras off, just so I can see if that works.
Yeah. Let me see. All right, how's this now? Yeah, I got the little notification that said microphone turned off.
Oh, okay. So that might not have been picking up. Let's see. Give me another 1 2 1 2. I can edit this together. There we go. I see. I see your voice there. Okay. So wait. So start at the beginning of Flowering Spikes. Where is it, and when did you start, and how did that all start happening?
So Flowering Spikes is in Westlake Village. The name Flowering Spikes it's a William Burroughs quote. And we also sell art books and stuff like that. And so I've just been collecting records forever, and just amassed like a whole house full of records, And I kind of had this vision. When the fire happened last January, our house almost burned down.
Oh,
so
crazy.
I remember like leaving the house, we fled to Santa Barbara. I live in Agora Hills, so we're kind of out there. And I remember leaving and seeing my recording studio and just a huge room with all the records. And I was like, this is all going to burn down and go away,
Yeah.
And you still have to just leave your house. And but then luckily our house didn't burn down. And then I just thought I should do something with all of these records other than just sort of hoard them in this room. And so then I decided to open up a shop, and I found this space in Westlake Village. It's on Thousand Oaks Boulevard.
Nice.
And that was that, man. And over the years, I had really amassed a really great classical music collection. I mean, I've been listening to classical music since I was in high school or whatever, but I didn't really get into sort of more audiophile-y or high-end classical stuff for since the last 5-7 years, something like that. I really started collecting a lot. And so really mostly now I'm a classical records dealer is my main thing. I mean, we also have tons of weird punk stuff, Japanese ambient and avant-garde stuff and all that. Tons of jazz, which I also love, but mainly classical. You listen to classical music?
No, never. I mostly listen to soundtracks to kids shows. I think that's all the music that I listen to. There's the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack. I think has been on rotation for the last 6 months. In between there's cats that sing Jingle Bells, or cats that sing other popular songs. I think all the K-pop Demon Hunter songs sung by cats has become a new introduction into the playlist rotation.
Right. We've been on.
Oh, your mic's out again. I'm not hearing you.
Keeps going out.
Weird.
Is it back now?
Yeah, you're on. Yep.
All right. Yeah, I see the little thing pop up, and it just pops up for a second goes away.
Weird. Okay. Well, I'll just call it out. It's just I'll edit around it.
Yeah.
But tell me, I mean, I think last we had hung out. I know you were doing a lot of cooking. I know you were kind of, had a musical background, playing in bands, and then also were a chef. Is that still part of what your world, or no? Have you left that behind?
I pretty much retired from that, I mean, really, like, the way it started was, when we were playing in bands together, like, even when our bands were playing together, like, and I would go on tours or whatever, and I would come home back to LA when I lived in Echo Park. And, like, like most other people, I would be broke. And, like,
Yeah.
I just happened to know people who worked in kitchens. And, I started working just like little side jobs and stuff. I remember working with Alan and like Paloma and places,
Yeah.
And and then I just started taking cooking more and more serious. And I started working in real restaurants for real chefs, and I worked my way up and became a sous chef and all of that. And I just felt like the playing music and the touring and all of that and the cooking, they kind of like crossed paths, and I just had more of a passion for really creating food, I mean, I still played, I played in Residual Echoes for like 10 years or something,
Yeah.
um, in that period. And, I eventually had my own restaurants and opened my own restaurants and had a couple spots in the Michelin Guide and kind of did the bougie fine dining world for a few years.
What's that world like? I don't know anything about that side of the world.
It's great. I mean, I've always been a painter and a musician. And so, like, for me, it was like cooking food on that level. To me, like, making a menu is the same as like writing an album, and then you go out every night and you perform it. It's like really super similar. You're just appealing to a different set of like senses. It's not for ears, it's for taste buds,
Mm-hmm.
But like the passion that I had for it was the same I'd always had since I was a kid, in the garage in high school playing rock music, So really, it wasn't like some hard transition or anything. Like it felt the same. And kind of like having a kitchen staff, having your own guys is kind of like being on a tour, being in a band, it has the same sort of like emotional, spiritual dynamics to it, like you go out every night and you do this thing. And so for me, it felt really comfortable. Actually, a lot of really good chefs that I became friends with in those years also came from bands,
What do you think that connection is? It's like a creativity thing. I mean, I know this happens, but I've heard about this, with, musicians and food, but how do you see it? How do you see the crossover in that? Do you think there's something inherently about musicians that make good cooks?
I think so, man. Because I think we're all artists,
Mm-hmm.
And I think we also seek something like not traditional, it's like I couldn't have a 9 to 5 job, like I'm sure you couldn't either, It's like, even if we've tried, like it doesn't work out well for me, And I think being a chef, and having your crew and doing all of that and creating every day has that same kind of like pirate ship feel to it, and it's you against the world every day, just the same as when you're out on tour in the middle of nowhere. And it really has that same vibe. And I think through being a musician and somewhat successful musician, it's like you learn what it takes to achieve that and how much you have to practice and, all of those things. So I think people like us, we roll into.
Oh, your mic's out. Your mic's out. I'm not hearing you. Oh, hello. Oh, there you go.
Let me push this mic.
You're back.
There we go. Okay, I'm back.
Okay. You were saying you roll into like a kitchen, or you roll into like something like that?
Yeah. Hang on. Let me catch this train of thought. This is going to be fun for you to edit down.
Oh, yeah.
So it just has that same vibe, and I think because of that, because of the practice and the discipline and the dedication and the artistry and all of that, it just transfers really well. Like I think some people, maybe even they just come out of school or culinary school or something, and they think they're just going to survive in a kitchen, and it's brutal. So I feel like, having been in bands and toured in vans and slept on floors and done all of that stuff, you already understand how to like navigate the brutality of it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't phase me.
That's interesting. And then, after running restaurants and putting menus together, where did that journey sort of come to its end? How did that happen?
Well, I still had my restaurant in Santa Barbara, which was in the Michelin Guide and all of that, and we'd won all the awards and stuff up there. And it was still doing great really until the pandemic hit. And then we let all of the staff go, and we kept the business open, but we were just serving like burgers and tacos and trying to be like a little local community thing, and sort of the fine dining elements of it and the wine and the experience and the service, that all like went away. And so I just don't think it was ever going to hit that point again. And that was really like the last restaurant I had. And then I had a little like foray into I had done some private chefing for people while I was a chef,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had some clients for a little while. But I had also started the brand. I don't know if you ever had. I don't think I sent you anything from the brand, but it was called Dark Horse, and we made like all natural organic ferments and like our own soy sauces and hot sauce, and
Oh, cool.
made normal things like ketchup and mustard, but that didn't have like crazy preservatives in it or crappy ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all over in like Whole Foods and Erewhon and Goop and all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
So then I had that business coming out of chefing. But at the end of chefing is kind of like this. I think the end of it is also the same as how some people end up breaking up in bands and stuff. It's like it just gets so stressful and so hectic. Um, I think I was having like adrenal failure or something. Like I would get so high to get through dinner service, and then I would still be wired and awake, at like 4 a.m.
Oh,
I
crazy.
couldn't just like, yeah, I just couldn't calm down anymore. It's like you kind of get off on the stress of it and the excitement and the sort of like jittery feeling, like here we go. But then I started to lose the ability to let that feeling go, you know? And so, yeah, I just left opening restaurants. I almost opened another restaurant about a year ago in Topanga, which would have been absolutely incredible, like incredible spot. But it sort of fell through at the last moment, and I was somewhat grateful, I guess. But
How
and then I started the record store.
That's cool. How was the brand thing, making you packaged foods and stuff like that? What was that experience like?
That was great. I mean, we had like an industrial kitchen in Lincoln Heights, and I had a staff there of like other sort of like rock and roll bonehead guys, who had gone to culinary school, and they made all this stuff, and I came up with the recipes. And then, really, for that brand, once I would develop something and it would go into production, then it was kind of more my responsibility to be like, the creative director of the brand or whatever. And I
Mm.
did all the marketing and graphic design. And but that goes back to the same thing, like I had been making like, flyers at Kinko's since I was a kid. So it's really just like an extension of really all the same stuff. It's interesting how many channels or paths you can move through in life, but you kind of still remain like the same weirdo that you were in high school.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it all kind of comes from the same sort of source. And then, is that brand still going, or did that get wiped
No,
out
we
by the
let that
COVID?
brand. Yeah, we let that brand go. Also, it was just becoming a lot. And, I mean, I don't have to tell you, but it's like prices have been continually just like going higher and higher. And the shipping got really hard. And like our thing was like, we never put anything in plastic, we had everything in like glass jars and metal and everything. And it got so hard to source everything. Um, and then the prices went up so high that it was like the company itself was like making a lot of money, but like what I was personally making was like nothing, you know, like whatever margin of profit you have, was just like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking as prices went up. And it was just like, you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like it wasn't like a failed business, and I probably could still be doing it and we could have gotten it back on track, but I just wanted to do something else after all of that and kind of get out of food, even though, like I was saying, I had like private clients for a while. Like I cooked for, you know, famous people, rock stars and whatnot. Even people I had known in bands that are like really successful, but I had played shows with them years before.
What was that world?
Because I
How
think
was it being around that kind of world of things? Was it weird or was it cool?
No, it's cool,
Yeah.
man. It's super cool. It's like, it's fun. We're all doing our thing. Because I think before I ever even met you, which now is what, like 20 years ago or
Probably. Yeah.
something.
Something like that.
It's like, but when I was younger, like I had played in Thelonious Monster and Bicycle Thief and all
Oh,
these
okay.
bands
Right.
around. Because I was like the kid in those bands, kind of playing with like older guys.
Gotcha.
So then later on, I cooked for them and did things with them, and it was cool. But like, yeah, I had those connections still from before that era.
Got it. Got it. That's cool. So then, yeah, putting food behind you, then coming into record store world. It's based on your personal collection of stuff. What's that world? You mentioned classical records, dealers. Like what is the world of classical records like? Is that something that's specific or is unique to that particular genre of music? Do people
Well,
collect things differently?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's like it's super niche in like, there is like people who listen to records and collect records, and then there's all these like niche little categories. Like some people are like only into psych,
Mm.
or some people are only into like 50s jazz or punk records. Like I know dudes that just have nothing but like original first press, Crass and Peni and Bad Brains, and
Hmm.
and so I don't know. I mean, when I was in high school, I used to just like stay up all night and read books. And I always listened to classical music while I was reading because I couldn't listen to anything that had lyrics and read at the same time. So I had always listened to it and loved classical music, but the actual like collectible albums is just the same in any genre. You know what I mean? Like there's certain labels from certain eras that people are super into, and I just learned about all of that from other guys and started collecting all those records, and then met other collectors and bought collections and traded collections. And so now, like, really on my website, I only sell classical records.
Wow. And there's enough of a market for that. That's a thing that people buy enough of.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. And I think a lot of guys that are into classical records, what's a good way of putting it, are somewhat well off. You know what I
It's a rich man's game.
mean?
So it's a good business to be in.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not like, and I have stuff, I source things in really good condition. I mean, most of the game is like trying to find out where they are and trying to get them, like I know where they can go.
Hmm.
I know the people who want them. It's really just like a sourcing game.
And
And
how do you do that? That's through private collections or people whose parents or grandparents pass away and they got boxes and boxes of
yeah,
record. I mean, what's the sweet
yeah,
spot where do you, I mean, for someone like a novice, for someone who doesn't really know that world, like what's the sweet spot of classical music? Because obviously the music was all written hundreds of years ago, mostly,
hmm
but the recordings are all within the last 100 years. So, 100,
20 years, give or take. What is that sort of, how would you, to someone who doesn't know a lot about it, like if you at home have an elderly parent or grandparent who's about to pass away, what should you be looking for? What's the good stuff to hit you up with to know, like, oh, okay, well, I have all this great stuff from the 1930s that was recorded in New York or Pennsylvania.
Right.
How do you describe that for someone who doesn't
So
know?
it's mostly like there's what's considered the golden period in recording, which exists for jazz too, and some people would probably argue rock music also, but so it's really like late 50s through the 60s into like the 70s,
Okay.
because you got to also think at that point, like I mean, especially in the 50s, it was like you basically had television and records, and that
Radio.
was it. Yeah, radio, um, movies still, but like when you're at home, those were really the options. So it's like those were huge media corporations in that period. And there was so much money put into them, like just millions and millions of dollars into production and hiring the best teams and the best engineers and having the best pressing plants because it's still, capitalistic thing. You had like Mercury Records and RCA and Decca, and they're all competing, And so in this period, that's really when all of the money was thrown into making these beautiful recordings of like the world's most famous orchestras and the most famous composers. And it's the same as it would be in music. The labels basically signed orchestras and signed conductors, so they were under contract. Yeah. And so then you would sign a deal with, let's say, RCA Records or something, and you would be under contract for X amount of years, and you would make that run of recordings, And then the conductor would choose the composers or the material that he wanted to record, right?
Okay.
So then they would go in, they would make these massive recordings, because, I mean, to record an orchestra, you're in a huge hall, all mic'd up, everything. So those really are also as like a person who just listens to music and makes records and has made, I don't know how many records at this point, but it's like I've always been into sound and engineering also. And this really is the pinnacle, of having like three microphones, like they call it a deca tree, So there's like a microphone in the center and two kind of like outrigger mics to capture an entire orchestra playing, and then mix it down on the fly.
So that's all they would use to record a whatever, I don't know how many piece orchestra, 60-piece orchestra, just three microphones, send right, left, and center, and then mix those down to tape.
Wow. Sometimes they would have spot mics sometimes, like on the percussion
soloist or something.
Yeah, for a soloist for sure. And then, but it was still all mixed on the fly. They're just capturing a performance. And, obviously not an entire symphony. They would break it down into like 12-minute sections or something like that and record those. But it's also just the engineers and the technicians in that era were just brilliant. There was no second takes. There were no overdubs. There was nothing, And so really the job of the conductor, other than controlling like the tempo and the sort of overall vibe of the piece, is the conductor himself really is like an engineer. A lot of what they're doing is telling certain sections to come up in volume or certain sections to come down. So he's basically mixing the orchestra as they play. And so one of the reasons why they didn't want overdubs or a lot of spot miking and stuff like that was because the conductors were like the rock stars of that era. So, if you take a piece like Beethoven's Third Symphony or something, it's really the interpretation that conductor has for that piece of music, which is like a recipe or a blueprint, So you want to hear what they do with it when they speed up, when they slow down, when this section comes in louder, how they fade out. You know what I mean? So if you listen, this is one thing a lot of people probably don't know about classical music. If you listen to 10 versions of, say, Beethoven's third, they're going to be 10 different interpretations. You know, they're not going to sound the
How would you
same.
differentiate for some? I mean, I realize like, yeah, I am out of my depth here. I think I've heard stuff on KUSC, or I've heard, you know, you hear the thing, you go, okay, that's, or you hear it in a movie or a TV show or something. You're like, yep, that sounds like
Yeah.
something, but without ever studying it or knowing it. I mean, how would you, from one version to, like, what if you had to take the most furthest 2 points, like what would you have, you know, of that particular piece, like how would you describe one versus how would you describe another?
Yeah. Well, you have to really, it comes from listening to them over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an analogy I use with a lot of people, that it's like, if you really didn't know, okay? Like, think of every classical piece of music that was written in a modern recording of it. Think of it as a cover song,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're basically doing a cover of this piece of music that was written 100 years earlier. So then let's say the orchestra is a band, and you know the conductor is like a lead singer or something, you know. So it's like, would you want to hear, let's say, Billy Joel covering a Black Sabbath song, you
Right.
know? Or would you rather hear Black Sabbath covering a Billy Joel song, you know? Or would you rather hear like Sepultura do a Black Sabbath song? You see what I'm saying? It's
So
like
certain conductors
there,
have a certain feel for a certain composer's piece. So, you know, this
yeah, and
conductor with
certain
this guy, this is a
orchestras,
good fit, versus somebody who's a
yeah,
little off. And you might go, well, that's not really their best. That's not in his
yeah,
wheelhouse for what he does in terms of
yeah,
being sympathetic to dynamics or melody or being, you know, bringing certain
mhm,
things to the forefront. This conductor has a style and a vision for certain types of works. That's interesting.
yes,
That is
exactly,
interesting.
yeah. So
And then,
and then you have,
well, I'm just trying to get to this sort of thing. So then it's the type of thing, I guess, you know, in that cover sort of way. I mean, I guess it just brings me to like a Grateful Dead, like, oh, well, this is Vermont 75, night 3. This is the
mhm,
one, you know, that you want to get because it is all happening live there in front of you. And so
yeah,
this
yeah,
idea of, are there conductors that have, you know, I guess they perform the same piece, but it's at a different location, different studio, different orchestra, you know what I mean? But there's like, oh, but if you get this conductor, he's this, you know, he did this one piece 10 different times, but there's one version that stands out
mhm.
as being a better one for any number of X factor reasons.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely, that exists. It exists for sure. There's several conductors who've done whole cycles, like they'll do every Bruckner or every Beethoven, you
Okay.
know, and they might do it in 1949, 1959. They might do it again in the 70s, you know, and those also are three different interpretations, you know. Like I was talking about this the other day with like Stravinsky, who made really incredible recordings early in his career, but that sonically aren't that great because it's very early mono and all that. And then towards the end of his life, he also conducted all of his pieces himself. But I think when he was like 90 or something, you know?
Hmm.
And I was talking to someone else and I was sort of relating it back to like rock music, you know? And it's like, you know, I saw Sonic Youth in like 1989 or 88 or something. And then I saw Sonic Youth in like 2014, you know what I mean? And they played the same songs, but it was two completely different
Yeah.
shows, you
Yeah.
know? And same exists in the classical world and those conductors, you know? It's like they will interpret it differently at different periods of their life, you know?
Interesting. I know there's this guy in somewhere in the South in Tennessee or something. I heard him on Mark Maron. He seems to be, he was like a New Orleans guy. And then he gets like demos and he does represses. It seemed to me like he had a classical thing happening. I forget what his label was called. It seemed like he was doing
Oh, yeah, I
represses and
know that
stuff.
guy.
Yeah. Is that part of the same sort of world of
Yeah.
things where you can get these master
Yeah.
tapes and bake them and try to get a remaster out of them or get something different happening
Mhm.
from these things if a particular recording's out of print or something, say. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that guy. His name's Chad. He has this company called Analog
Okay.
Productions, and so also like in the vinyl community and stuff, like really what everyone is after is analog recordings. You know, like especially now, like we can stream everything and like, or you have CDs or SACDs or whatever, but like vinyl people, analog people are pretty much like vinyl analog people, you know? So this guy puts out really high quality reissues of classical and jazz and rock recordings, but sources the original tapes, you know? And then gets them to like really great mastering engineers who can then go through and see like, because tape deteriorates also,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so some tapes are just lost forever, you know, or they just sound bad or whatever. But if the tapes are still in good condition and you can still cut a lacquer from it, then he will do that and repress them and put them out. And a lot of them are really, really incredible sounding records. Like there's a huge debate over what's better, like the original or the remaster from the tapes, and what technology was better at what time, you know? And it gets into a very like geeky,
Sure.
you know, internet forum people who want to die on either of those
Sure.
hills. And,
Well, yeah.
you know how it
Well,
goes.
you haven't really heard it
Yeah.
until you've heard it through a, $30,000 Macintosh receiver coming out of, $80,000 worth
Yeah.
of speakers. And then you can really hear the flea fart in the back of the room and go, oh, we really did something here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That all exists. And it's like, I've had really, really expensive high end gear and I've had not so expensive gear. And, you know, like, does it sound better on big, huge, expensive systems? Sure.
Sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But like, can you still enjoy the music on something lesser? Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not like a snob about it.
Well,
You know what I mean?
it's so funny. I think, just in terms of like thinking back to like early days of recordings and stuff, it's like, I think, our early stuff we recorded to tape because it was cheaper and it was affordable and places had it. And then as we got into better studios that had digital, recording, equipment, it just sounded better to us. It was, and we had more options, we had more flexibility.
Yeah.
And then when we got our own computers in our own studio and set up our own things, it was just like, oh my God, like this is night and day. And I mean, there was the whole thing, when No Age started, we were, labeled as a lo-fi band. And it was only because that's what we could afford to use. And that was all the tape stuff. Right. I mean, it was Kundo's like early Tascam, whatever it was, the MK2 big, 1-inch thing that he had, the kind of the all-in-one thing, eight track thing. And so we were bouncing down and it kind of sounded like shit, but there was a charm to it, or there was a certain character to that, was sort of picked up, but it was never really an artistic or creative choice that was made by us, the artist, and so it's so funny to think back and just go like, oh, right. Yeah. People, but again, it's, people are going to like collect VHS tapes or cassette tapes and say, and you're not going to win the argument that they look better or they sound better. Like a cassette tape that's been sitting in the back of a 1985 Toyota Corolla isn't sounding better than, than a lossless, FLAC file. It's just, it just doesn't sound, but it's about like all of this stuff. I guess there's nostalgia. There's like the smell of your mother's perfume. There's the smell of the dust in your dad's office that you weren't supposed to go into when you first heard this thing. And like the closest you can get to those, those tubes heating up and burning the dust in the air, and you listen to music and you can smell the physical thing happening. It triggers nostalgia. And there's money in that, right? That's the part of the game.
Of course there is. And there's also like the pinnacles of technology and stuff, and like I've recorded albums on tape in people's garage studios and stuff that did have that lo-fi sound and everything. And I also recorded albums on tape, on 2-inch tape in like, world famous studios that sounded mind blowing. You know what I mean? So it's all relative in there, it's like, I mean, do you use like amp models and stuff?
Not if I can help it, not by choice,
exactly.
You know what I mean? But again, there's a time and place, I suppose, but it's also relative, right? You know what I mean? In the sense of like, is it easier to have like a preamp in a box, like a little pedal, you know what I mean? And it's like, is that analog? Yeah. But is it tubes? No, but I have some, solid state heads that sound great. And I have some tube heads that sound good, but not as good as, what I mean? You're right. It comes down to a creative choice. It's a color in a box kind of thing. Like, okay, what color do you need for the thing? And I don't know. I haven't, I think, the Metallica sort of situation, where they can just play to,
Uh-huh.
250,000 people every night and never move, have an amp on stage anywhere near it. It's like, great. Yeah, they don't need it. The audience doesn't give a shit. They've all spent, $800 a ticket to go up there and watch Lars, try to keep it to a click as best he can. You know what I mean? And so, it's like whatever you get what you get, you know what I mean? And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Exactly. And even today, like you play those big shows and like, like my girlfriend was really into like the Deftones and Mars Volta and all these like metal bands. So like we went and saw a few of those shows last year. And it was like, I mean, those are all like massive Class D amps and Class D subwoofers, and it's all going through like every plugin. Like there was one, it was like a Deftone show, and it was like Rat Sound was doing it,
Sure.
of course. And I was just like sitting there in the sound booth, and just to see the amount of plugins that was on everything was insane. Like it was just like, when you can see like the compressor meters moving,
Sure.
and it was like anything would hit and it would be like just squashing it down to nothing to pump out that volume. So it's like, I don't think it matters a whole lot on that level whether you're playing a 1950s tube amp or not, because it's just getting crushed in the house mix,
Sure.
And and all the auto.
But that's what sounds good to the people. I mean, the people that pay the money, everybody that left that concert was probably like, that was the best sounding thing ever. He said the name of our city.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "How are you doing, Cleveland?" Yeah. Oh my God. I love this. My best memory in my life. You know what I mean? They don't know.
I mean, I did that once too, but this is like years ago, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. We did like a little like West Coast tour, and I didn't want to drag like a giant amp. And I asked my friend, hey, because I knew he had all these little like Class D bass amps that are like this big.
Yeah, the quilters. Or,
like the size of like a paperback book.
Yeah, great.
I was like, hey, can I just borrow that? And he's like, yeah, man, no problem. And like we played like in a theater. Where did we play in San Francisco? I don't remember. But like it was so loud, so massive, like just room shaking low end. And I'm like, out of this thing that's like a paperback book, And I was like, why have I been hauling around this SVT my whole life? Like, what am I thinking?
Moving refrigerators up and down stairs nightly. Oh yeah. No, it's the backbreakingness of it all. And I reached a point at some point, in the last 10 years where I realized like, I'm the only one that likes how my guitar sounds. And that kept me going. I still played it that way for probably another 8 years. And then at some point I was like, if I, nobody ever came up really and talked about guitar. They would say it was loud. And I was like, yeah, but do you hear how the natural harmonics are happening? And there's a compression that happens when the power tubes are pushed really hard. And then the speakers are doing this thing, nobody talked about that. And again, even I feel like an asshole for even, appreciating it like that. Cause really at the end of the day, the audience doesn't hear it that way. Like I would make my guitar sound good to where like 3 feet in front of the speaker on stage where my head was. And I played it like that. And I liked it. And I had a great time doing it. I did it for a long time. And I thought that was that was the name of the game, but really at the end of the day, it was grief from every front of house person, grief from the audience, grief from Dean, grief from everybody. We're loading and hauling the stuff. I was like, but this was the whole idea, was to get good guitar. Where I bring the stuff every night, you set it up, you break it down, you load it. I load in, load out myself. I didn't have a crew or anything. So I was like, no, this was the whole reason for the season. This was to get this good sounding gear up on that stage and play a good sounding show. And once it finally dawned on me, once I was finally able to see like everybody else just hated it. And I was like, oh, okay, well then why am I killing myself here? Then let's just go ahead and just do the easy way. Like, I got a couple DeVilles. Great. Cool. Let's strap some DeVilles. But all I really needed was them close to my head. So I built this like conky robot looking kind of thing where I had like a 410 bass cab and then 2 DeVilles like ratchet strapped on top of it. So I could just turn it up really loud and get it right in my ear, and then they could mic it. And then even at that, with like I don't know what DeVille's put out, like 50 watts or something, 25 watts. And there's, you got to turn down, it's too loud, and just like, oh, okay. There's also the sad part of all of this too, is the venues that get smaller and smaller. The bigger the venues, the less nobody talks to you about volume when you play in large venues. But as the rise and fall of a band's life cycle and venue size, we were coming back down and the venues were getting smaller again. And it was like, oh shit. Okay. Then I got to like play the amp for the room, And
Yeah.
it was like, okay, this is all just
Exactly.
disappointing, but it's fine. Not the size, but the quality of the tone. But it's like, if this was what works for this space and this time, then okay, that's fine. I'll make it easy on myself.
Yeah. But you did it all those years for you so that you could enjoy it. And
Yeah.
it's like, and it's also like, you never know. It's like, there's some kid standing there in the back who knew. You know what I mean?
I hope so. But I mean,
There's-
but I don't know if you
Yeah,
say you go to see a Deftones concert or something at the Forum. Shit's quiet now. In 2025, you can't hear a concert like we did in the 90s. And then that's not just because we're old and deaf. I think there's a literal, like, there's these, decibel, breaks on everything. Like concerts are significantly quieter today on all levels. I saw Built to Spill at the Belasco downtown, and we were talking. You're having like a normal conversation over the band. And it's just like, it's so disappointing. Yeah. On so many levels, especially for that band who was great. I saw them with 3 guitar players and they were at the Roxy and they were so loud and it was so fun. And like, whoa, this is a great sonic band. That band in particular, the way he writes, those guitar parts are layered up and just blown out. And to hear what they were doing now is just like, okay, that's the song. I get it. But this is like coming out of the speaker on my phone versus coming out of a radio.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, and we grew up playing so loud.
Yeah.
Too.
It's great. Full stacks.
I mean, I remember.
When's the last time you saw a full stack anywhere?
Because I was kind of like you, like when I was in Horses with Mateo and it was the 2 of us, like I was like tri-amped.
Yeah.
Like most shows,
it's so fun.
1 bass rig and a Marshall and a Sun, and all of that, and split through all the pedals. And it was like great, you know? But, yeah, also like we would drive people out of rooms though and stuff. You'd like playing so loud, which is like, do you have tinnitus now?
No, I at some point somewhere
I have a little
somewhere in my 20s I had it, and then I read more about it, and again I never saw any doctors, but it was a thing where I realized like what it was like this phantom limb syndrome. It's a mental problem, not necessarily a physical problem. So then I was like, oh, it's your brain. So just tell your brain not to do it. You just have to ignore it, or have to like do like a psychological kind of flip on it, and then it went away. So
yeah, I kind of had it a little bit, and I just like, I think it was always the cymbals that got me even more than my own guitar amp.
Live drums are loud. That's always the funniest part of it too. It's like, you guys got to turn down. I'm like, have you heard his snare? Like, turn everything off and just put your decibel meter on a snare and ride. If you're you're over 100 dB there. So what do you want me to do with what does it matter what the guitar is going to do? I'm just trying to play at that. I'm trying to play at that volume. I would lose.
Yeah, like I get a little ringing in my ears some days. Like, here's my thing, man. I have good days and I have bad days.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not a constant thing where it's just humming in my head all the time. But it's like right now I hear nothing. Like, it's just perfect, but I could wake up tomorrow and have a little hum in one ear. But, also like what you're saying, like it is mostly a mental game. And also when I started like working out more and stuff and like running and exercising, it seemed to like really help it a lot.
Well, it's also stress, and it's, what I mean? It's you're kind of your body dealing with things and anxiety. I mean, again, but that's part of it. I mean, we've lived this long, I mean, we're in our 40s, I would imagine. And,
right.
Our eyes aren't good. Who are we going to blame? You know what I mean? Like we both got reading glasses on or seeing glasses. Like, is that whose fault is that? Am I going to be mad that I read too many books? Am I going to tell my kids don't read so much? Make sure you don't read all that because you need to save your eyes for later. Like, don't listen to music too loud. It's like that's the quality of life. It's like, I got a dad gut. I got a dad bod. But does that mean, I shouldn't have eaten all that great food or done all these things? It's like, that's part of the living, or like, oh, my knees are bad or my feet hurt. It's like, because you used it, you did something with it. Yeah. I mean, the older you get, you are going to wear out. So if hearing problems happen, they were going to happen. Usually, and like most of the stuff is genetics too, whatever problems you have, unless there's a specific traumatic injury that you had. It was going to happen one way or the other. And so, I don't know. It just all comes with life. Like, I don't know. I don't want to listen to music quietly. I don't want to go see a band play quietly, especially as much as it costs, and you got to get a babysitter now and you're going out to the thing. And so there's all of those kind of factors. It's like, oh, this is a dystopian.
I saw a good show. I saw a super good show that was pretty loud, like last month. I'm surprised I didn't see you there. Actually, I was like hanging out backstage and saw so many people I hadn't seen in so long. But we went and saw Unwound when they played.
Oh yeah,
You
at the
know?
Wiltern. Or no, where was this
No,
at?
it wasn't at the Wiltern. It was at the Avalon or
Oh, okay. Yeah. Used to be the Palace.
But
Yeah.
it was cooler. Me and Alan went, and we saw a bunch of other people we knew. But it was like that show was so killer, man. Like they're just still so great, and those guitars sound incredible. And the dude from Carp is playing bass.
Yeah.
That was
Jared.
just like, yeah, it was just like so ripping. I think it was maybe one of the best Unwound shows I've ever seen.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I used to see him in the 90s in like someone's living room, but like it was like, yeah, it was so good, man. Do you still go out and see shows?
When I can, you know how it is, kids and things, you know what I mean? I'm booked up. I'll what did we go do? We went and saw Supergrass at the Palladium.
Oh, nice.
It was funny. Yeah, they announced the tour. It was like right on my birthday last year, and I was like, "Oh, there's pre-sale! Like, let's get and they were doing the I Should Coco like full album thing, and then extra songs. I was like, I love that record. I feel like that's like a top, from front to back, no skipping. That I Should Coco record, and they sounded incredible. It was really fun. We got there early and saw the openers and stood right up front, and they sounded awesome. That sounded, but again, quiet. It was the kind of thing too. Like when we moved a couple of spots, like we were up close. Like, okay, now this is quiet for because you're not hearing the PA. You're too close there, and then you stand in the back and you're hearing somewhere tucked around the sound booth. It was okay. And then we moved out to the side and like saw something else, but they were great. And then some buddies of mine there was like 2 days later, a friend had an extra ticket to go see Oasis. And so I went and saw that. And again, sound is meaningless at the Rose Bowl. There's no good sound.
But, totally. I saw one of those, one of those Deftones shows that we went and saw was at like Padres Stadium in San Diego. Yeah. And I was just like, what is, it's not even music, it's just kind of like observing a spectacle.
Yeah. The wind blows and it all kind of gets quiet and then it comes back.
Yeah. And especially like, I've talked to dudes who played huge like arenas and stuff and have buddies who do that. But they were like, how bands start out, they have like complicated music or fast music or whatever. And then like as their careers go, as they progress more and more, it gets more stripped down and slower. And they were like, that's because when you play bigger venues, no one can hear anything. Like no one can hear any of those riffs that you're playing. It's just a mush, you know? So it becomes this sort of like
nursery rhyme,
middle of the road, 4 on the floor, like thing. And then that's what you can hear. That's what people like,
Yeah. And, that's how you keep playing.
So the Deftones was just a push. Nothingness.
Yeah. But that's the thing with Oasis. Like I realized I was like, I like Oasis. I remember them. I saw them when I was a kid. And then I was like, well, I like 5, maybe 6 songs. And then they played for 2.5 hours. And I was like, okay, that was one song. That's 1 out of the 6. I was like, when are they going to play the other ones? And then it was just a bunch of middle of the road kind of acoustic crap. And every drum fill sounded like a Ringo drum fill. Every solo sounded like a Neil Young solo. I was like, I like Ringo. I like Neil Young. I'm pulling threads out of this thing. And then encore happens in the last half hour. Like, those are the songs. Those are the songs I know. So those are start with the encore and then flip it around the other ways. I could go home earlier. It was a mess. But the encore stuff was great. Those 5 songs are good songs. But the rest of it is, I didn't even know they played. Man. I didn't even know they wrote all that. That must have been later career, sort of like they all felt like they were theme songs from some British like teenage soap opera or something. Like everybody was singing along and knew them and were crying like it was an important piece of music. I was like, I don't know. I don't know any of these fucking songs.
No idea. Also, like playing like concerts that are that long. I remember once when I was in the Monster, we played this like festival and we opened up for The Cure. And like, I mean, I love The Cure. Like I love everything about The Cure. And literally after like an hour and a half, like, 2 hours of The Cure, you're just like, what up, Love Cats? Who cares? Like Disintegration. Please just stop playing. You know what I mean? And that's for like a band that like I love so much, to just like, it's tiresome, man, to stand there for that long and just like
Yeah,
You know?
I saw Bruce Springsteen do like 4 hours, I think, or almost 4 hours, 3.5 hours. And it's just him, no opener. He just comes out and just plays. He takes a break and lets Niels Lofgren sing a song. And I don't know, maybe it's little Stevie sings a song, he like, there's little breaks in there, but it was a lot, but they're good, but he's got a deep catalog he can pull from, and he's a showman, and he takes you on a journey. It's storytelling. It's, he stomps around like Frankenstein and, sings through his teeth. And they even crowd surfed for like, 15 seconds and like, God bless this man. Sure. Fantastic. This is great. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's why only the Dead could really get away with it, because everyone just needs to be on shrooms and acid and stuff. And then you can play for 4 or 5 hours and no one cares.
You're not really listening to it.
Your concept of time has been removed. So it might as well just be one song.
Sure. It sounds like it after a while.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So Flowering Spikes is the record store. Where can people learn more, and how do people follow you and buy stuff from you, and
Just like floweringspikes.com. I just have my own website. I don't really sell records on Discogs or eBay or any of that stuff. I just have my site. I have the shop. I'll show you. Here's the shop.
It's great.
See?
That's fun.
Coming over.
Can you do in-stores? Do you ever get bands in there playing?
I haven't yet, but I'm going to start doing like some listening nights. And there's actually some weirdos who live around here who play in kind of like experimental bands and stuff. Yeah. And they were like, could we do something? And I was like, yeah, man. But I was also kind of waiting for this time of year where it gets dark at like 5 o'clock, Because, I'm not going to have shows at 11 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? It's like, when I close the shop at 6, we could do something for a couple hours, So now it's getting dark. I think I'm going to do some listening parties, like I have a pretty killer, actually, hi-fi, one of those expensive hi-fi systems we were joking about earlier, but there is one in here. And some listening parties and just blast some music and have some little bands come in and stuff. And then other than that, everything is Flowering Spike. So I have a YouTube channel. I had the YouTube channel for even years before I opened the shop. And I was mostly just talking about classical records and sort of doing like shootouts and reviews and stuff. So that exists. And then the Instagram is Flowering Spikes. I just see this on the floor. I'm going to show this to you. I should get these guys in here. Have you heard this record?
Yeah, Juan and Michael, Cupid Psyche. I haven't heard the record, no, but I saw them play. I went to their first show when they played. That looks great.
Yeah, I saw them play.
Who
I saw them play a little while.
Who put it?
It was so killer, man. It was like, that was one of, like, we can talk about all these bands. Oh, I saw this and that. That was like probably one of the best shows I've seen.
They sound great. Yeah, who put out the Cupid and Psyche record? What label's that on?
I don't know. Okay. Romantic Music.
Oh, okay, cool. That's fun.
Yeah. I got a couple records from them when I saw them. It was just so fun to just see them play. Like, they're just so like natural, like they just look like they're just hanging out, talking to each other, and like just music comes out, After you've been playing together for that long.
Yeah. I had Juan on here. I asked Michael to come on, and then he kind of was trying to figure out a time or something, and then we sort of lost touch. But yeah, Juan came on and talked about playing music and writing and being a journalist. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool, man.
Yeah, it was super fun to see them. It was at what's that place called? It's like Infinite Power of the Universe.
Healing Force of the Universe, that record shop in Pasadena. Yeah, I played there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah, I went and saw it there. It was super fun. They opened up for Devin. I also went and saw Devin while he was in town.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah,
you should have Devin.
I had Devin on here. It was ridiculous. It was probably been about a year.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, you got to go back in the archives. It's there. He called in from, Denmark? I think we just laughed the whole time. I just made fun of Oscar the whole time. Why are records so expensive? I know this is the wrong thing to ask somebody who has a record store, but I guess everything's expensive. Right. Peanut butter is expensive. Like, God damn, it's hard when you go into a record store and you're like, I saw that record for $5 and now here it is for $35. Is that just the nature of things? Well, I guess I'm asking this as a friend, as a fan of records. I think that's the hardest thing, like going to a place like Healing Force of the Universe, and God bless them. You know, I mean, sell whatever you can get, what you can get for them. But I look at it and I'm just like, I'm putting my pennies together. I'm rubbing two pennies together just to keep the lights on. And I go to a record store and I'm like, wow, this is a rich man's game. This is not a common man's.
It kind of unfortunately has become that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think there were always elements of it that were that way. Although I remember going to Amoeba Records.
Oh, they had expensive
20
stuff,
years ago or whatever, and just buying like a stack of John Coltrane records for like $10 each or whatever. You know, that are now I could sell for $110.
That's
each,
crazy,
easily.
And what is that? Just because people know about it, and the more people are demanding it. And there's only a finite amount of those records, I suppose, right?
Yeah, that's really the main thing. There's only a finite amount of them. And there's only a finite amount of them in good condition. So it's like, you could still go get a beat up record for $1.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. And when I was a kid and I didn't have any money, I bought beat up records for $1 for years and years, you know? And listen to just listen to them till they were beat up to death. Right. But it has a collectability factor in it, which is cool and uncool at the same time. Do you know what I mean? But that also exists in fashion and just cars and painting. I mean, paintings are like the most insane.
That's just money laundering for rich people. The art world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, so, people are trying to get these big collections and get everything. Like if they're into jazz, they want every
completionist kind of things.
Every Impulse record, and they want a mono copy and a stereo copy and this, and it's like the second, the third, the fourth pressings that are like what normal people would buy just to listen to at home. They're not interested in those records, But what has happened over time, and I think with Discogs and things like that, is people will look up the price of this record, like, Love Supreme by John Coltrane, and they'll look up the price of like a mint condition first pressing mono, and then they'll think their one from the 70s that's like in VG condition is worth that. You know what I mean? And that also artificially inflates prices, where it's like, if it is the original and it is in super great shape, like, yeah, it should command a high price. But if it's just a later pressing, like a run-of-the-mill whatever pressing, I believe those records should still be cheap and available to anyone. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because every record is not a collectible record.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And like people are
I've played on a lot of those uncollectible records. I've made uncollectible records.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure some of your records are collectible.
But again, like everything, it comes and goes, right? I mean, there's a time and place. You know what I mean? What was once, like you could find everywhere, then it was like, now everybody wants those things, and then vice versa, it'll all go away. Mm-hmm. The thrift store find.
Yeah, like I've had this conversation with people who come in with like, they still think like Beatles and Elvis records and stuff are worth all this money, and it's like, not really, man.
Not at this time. Hold on to them for another 10, 20 years. Maybe they will be.
Maybe that's true. But I also think like, okay, I can only really use myself as an example, So I grew up like in the late 80s, early 90s, whatever. So it's like, when I was a kid, I wanted like Jimi Hendrix records and Cream records and all like late 60s stuff, Captain Beefheart, whatever. So that was like 20 years before my time, my generation, So if you go 20 years back from this generation, I mean, what is that music? You know what I mean?
It's Britney like Spears.
It's almost like
NSYNC.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, but like the era of your band.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I played, what I mean? That's like oldies, you know? And then if you think about it, like some kids, like they don't want Pink Floyd records. Like they don't want this stuff. And I was thinking about it and I was like, well, to go back that far from where we are now would be like me in the 80s and someone trying to tell me, oh, like this Cab Calloway record is incredible, or so, you know what I
Sure.
mean? Big band,
Yeah.
Benny Goodman, and trying to tell me how great Benny Goodman is or whatever. And it's like, I was like, I didn't care at all. You know what I mean? And so it's like you have all these like kind of boomery rock bands, you know, that kids couldn't care less about, you know?
But is
so,
it the kind of thing though? Is there a big enough audience where kids are still driving the market? I mean, like you say with like classical music, that's obviously not a young man's game.
yeah,
You know?
it's not a young man's game.
But,
I mean, I get collections in with rock records in them, and I keep those cheap. You know what I mean? And kids come in and buy
that's
them,
cool.
and like. But I would say the most stuff that I sell by the two younger people is like
Gorilla Biscuits and and Lana Del Rey.
yeah. I mean, if I, if I had Gorilla Biscuits, but yeah, you know what? It's like stuff like Wilco or you know what I mean, Bonnie Prince Billy, like that kind of stuff sells, and then also just kind of the classics of like Bad Brains, Black Flag, Depeche Mode, The Cure, like kind of that era of stuff is really popular and really also just like hard to find in good condition because those are people listen to those.
Sure,
records,
they get played
you
the
know?
shit out of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you?
One of the
What do you think? Do you ever get in new SST things or like you know whatever like he's still putting out? Have you heard the quality of any SST things? I heard for years he was just going off of the CDs. Like he lost all the master tapes and he's just going off of whatever CD masters he made in the 80s. And he's still pressing those to this day.
Yeah, I believe that's true. I don't really sell any new records. Okay. Everything I have is used. And that's also because I like older pressings just as a curator and a fan. But like, okay, so a lot of times new records are also just pressed from CDs or files, you know? And also the music industry in general has been taken over by like two companies, you know? Just like every other, the food business, any other thing you can think of. So you have two distributors, right? And if you want new records, you have to go through one of those two distributors to get them.
Got it, right? Yeah,
you know?
It's a monopoly.
So, and the profit margin on it is like, if a record costs $30, like as a shop owner, I'm probably paying 23 for it, 24. You know what I mean?
It's not enough.
So it's not like the old days of a 50-50 split.
Sure.
You know, it's like really, really off on the side of the distribution corporation. So it's like I have to invest like $25 into something to make $5. That's not great business, especially if I don't sell it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And then you're paying rent on storage on a thing that isn't going to sell. This is costing you even more. You end up losing money if you don't sell it within a month.
Yeah. And since these companies have taken over, there's no buybacks. There's no returns anymore.
Call them out. Who are these distributors?
Well, one of them is called Allied. That's like the main. They control almost everything. Like even if you wanted an SST record or a Sub Pop record, you still have to order it through them. You know, that's like the main one. Then there's like another sort of like minor one, but yeah, that's like the main one. But you know, when you used to go to like Amoeba or used record stores and you would find the records with like the corner clipped off of it, you know, so those were just returns. So you could buy 10 copies of like, you know, a Steve Miller record or whatever. And if you only sold 5, you could send the other 5 back and they would reimburse you for them. And then they would clip the corners and those would become discounted records.
Would go to Pick and Save or go to somewhat, you know, outlet kind of place.
Yeah, Kmart or whatever. But so now there's no buybacks. There's no returns, you know. I've heard other record store owners say even if you get a return, like someone returns a record and they're like it skips or whatever, they don't even want to refund you for that.
Wow.
So kind of like the record store has to eat that, or they make it so difficult to return it that it's just crazy. You know, when I had the Dark Horse company and I was doing all the shipping, the post office had like smashed all of these boxes that I sent, and I wanted to get a refund for the damaged property. And they told me that I had to submit the recipes for what was in there and how much I was paying wholesale to create the product and the wholesale price of the jars, and they would reimburse me for that, but not the MSRP of the product itself. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I'm surprised they even did that. I figured they would just blame you for improperly boxing them. You're supposed to box them.
Yeah, but these were like, when you looked at it, it was like, I don't even know how that, like, it looked like someone had just taken the box and just like slammed it into a brick wall.
Probably.
Like things like that don't even happen accidentally, you know?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, no, you never know what's going to happen to something once you put it out for shipping. I mean, I've heard so many horror stories of people getting things or shit just getting stolen too, or it never arrives. You know, I mean, you try to order stuff online. All right, Greg. Well, it's been great talking. Good catching up. Everybody go to Flowering Spikes. What's the website? floweringspikes.com. All right. Everyone go there. There'll be links in the show notes down below. And we'll everyone go support it. Go learn more about classical music. Go buy some classical records. Also go searching if people want to sell you records or want to, like, you know, if you want to see if you want to buy them, how do you do that? How do you find that?
I'm always buying collections. Okay. So, you know, just go on the website, send me a message, call me at the shop, whatever. And I do pay good money for good records, you know, in good condition. I know a lot of people, you take your records in and they like to just hose you, you know. But I am a person who believes in karma and all of these things. And I believe that, like, if I try and do right by the person, the cycle will continue to roll in. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if you have records to sell, hit me up, man. I will buy them off of you and give you a pretty good price for them. There you go.
Yeah. If you have grandmas and grandpas, if you've inherited a collection, or if you're trying to clear out a house of your parents, that's probably the best place. You're wondering what to do with all these records. Don't throw them in the trash. Call Greg at Flowering Spikes.
Yeah. And next time you guys play a show in LA, I'll come out.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be fun.
Be super fun, man. I haven't seen you in years.
Yeah. We had a record come out in 2022, and we did the whole tour. Then did, you know, US, Europe. We did LA, all that fun stuff, and then that's 3 years ago. Time just goes by. We probably toured for that year, so it's probably been like 2 years of kind of just laying low. It's a funny thing. I mean, we have 20 years coming up. I think our first record came out in 2020, or it came out in 2006. So next year will be the 20-year anniversary of that first record, Weirdo Rippers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Was that 2006 or was 2007? Maybe somewhere in there. Anyway, it's coming up. It's wild.
I think it was before 2000. No, it could have been 2007.
Yeah, sounds about right. Somewhere, maybe the EPs came out 2006, and then the comp, you know, the whole thing came out 2007. Something like that. Awesome, man. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you soon.
Yes. How rad was that, Greg? Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you fighting the good fight and out there educating people about classical records and records just in general. Physical media matters, right? Especially in this holiday time. Give your loved ones physical media. Give them a book. Give them a record. Give them a VHS. Give them a DVD, a tape. Physical media rules. And these streaming guys, we can already see, you know, in terms of music streaming, bunch of crazies. Everybody else is our crazies. So go out there, support floweringspikes.com. Follow them on Instagram, Flowering Spikes. There it is. Happy holidays.
You know, I think I was having like adrenal failure or something, you know, like I would get so high to get through dinner service, and then I would still be wired and awake, you know, at like 4 a.m. And I couldn't I just couldn't calm down anymore. You know, it's like you kind of get off on the stress of it and the excitement and the sort of like jittery feeling, like, here we go, you know? But then I started to lose the ability to let that feeling go, you know?